Rich, and this is going to be a response video to Unnatural Vegan and her video on anti-natalism and her response to anti-natalism. Um, First of all, I'd like to say that I'm not a supporter of Freely or Julian Ryder. I'm not here to defend their views, and I quite like Unnatural Vegan's channel. Of all the vegan channels I follow, hers is the only one which I'm not consistently disgusted by, so well played, Unnatural Vegan. Anyway, as I said, I don't support free. I'm delighted that Jerry Ryder doesn't want children, honestly, especially considering his comments on mental health, gay rights, women's reproductive health. The list goes on. Both Freely and Jerry Ryder don't have much compassion for other people, and I don't think they'd make very good parents due to that. I'd also like to say that I don't like nor support the anti-natalism movement. Um, I think that the anti-natalism movement just consistently glosses over the fact that women who are mothers, especially single mothers, are already unjustly treated, especially if they're already part of a minority. They're seen as a burden on the system, are called breeders and other derogatory words. They're seen negatively and are discriminated against at work and are less likely to be offered jobs. Anti-natalists also very commonly use derogatory words against mothers and look down on them. Anti-parent rhetoric in general is rife in the anti-natalist community, and I don't stand for that bullshit. So here's Unnatural Vegan's first point.
I get the impression that many of us don't really like kids in general. I think unless it's our own children or children we're closely related to or spend a lot of time with, we probably tend to get annoyed easily by other kids, right? Kids we don't know. I think the same can be said for animals. My dad's a good example. He never wanted any pets when we were growing up, but we always had pets, cats, and a dog. And over the years, he ended up bonding with them.
First of all, I'd like to say I do like children, I just don't want any children. I think the statement "I don't like kids" and the similar statement "I don't like cats, pigs, chickens, rabbits, dogs, or whatever animal" comes from the idea that all children and all animals are fundamentally the same, when all animals and all people, including kids, are different. I think people place ideas of what children are like upon individual children and will then dislike children due to those ideas. So if somebody thinks that children are loud or boisterous or annoying or bratty, then when they meet children, they'll just put those things onto a child. So if they see a child like asking for candy or asking for something, they'll see that as a bratty behavior. They won't like put any nuance onto it. I think the same goes for animals. Many people dislike cat and they'll say things like, "Oh, they're selfish or aloof or disloyal." But all cats aren't these things, obviously, because all cats are individuals. They all have individual traits and individual likes and needs. I think that's why you and your dad eventually bond with animals who you have a preconceived notion about. You eventually see the animals as individuals and not as a species with a number of traits which you think are inherent. She also makes the point that people don't want to see people's newborn babies and they don't really care about baby photos and stuff like that. And I agree. I think that's valid because really you've seen one baby, you've seen them all. There's not much individuality in a newborn baby. They all roughly look the same and they cry, they shit themselves. There's not much nuance there.
Parents wanting their children to procreate when they come of age, of course, is not necessarily selfish. Again, for many, having children is the most rewarding experience in their lives, and it's something that they often credit with making themselves better, more compassionate and more patient people. It's unsurprising that these parents would want their children to experience the same.
I think parents annoying their adult children about having kids when the children have stated usually multiple times they don't want kids. It's wrong. First of all, it's in denial of that person's view in themselves. Like, I know myself better than my family know me. My family do not know what is best for me more than I know what's best for me. People older than me do not know what is best for me more than I know myself. They don't know what kind of parent I'd make or if I'd make a good parent at all. In the case of people who aren't related to me, they don't know what illnesses or medical conditions run in my family. The issue I have with people telling me that I'll change my mind is that they don't know my mind like I do. It isn't wisdom which makes people claim that you'll change your mind. It's arrogance. It's the smug assumption that you know what the person wants more than they do.
Of course, he's anti-contraceptive pills as well, so it makes sense.
I just wanted to basically state my view on this issue because I feel like it's very polarizing and there hasn't really been someone saying my view on this, but this would be what I think. The contraceptive pill is really overprescribed instead of other birth control options. Many women do not know the possible side effects or long term risks of the contraceptive pill. prescribed for many medical issues and is used as a catch-all remedy for many female-specific health issues. Women are also not told about other longer-lasting birth control methods. They're not taught how the pill works or what it does to their body. I've added links in the description, including a link to an article about gender bias in medicine, which is one of the reasons the pill is so overprescribed.
Vegan condoms being ridiculously expensive and hard for many to find.
Vegan condoms are accessible. There's a very good condom company called Passante in the UK, which is all vegan, and 288 Passante condoms can be bought for 48 pounds, which would be about $60. Bit of a break here, but what the fuck is wrong with Jurian Ryder's hair? He looks like he'd have fight with a lawnmower. Ugh, this man annoys me. The look of him annoys me.
For those unfortunate enough to live in a war-torn developing country in perpetual poverty, then yeah, that may be true. Or for those who otherwise aren't financially stable enough to care for a child. But for the vast majority of people, particularly for those of us living in the developed world, we're pretty happy to be alive.
I think this is part is just really showing that you have a lot of privilege and you live in a very kind of stable situation. Because for me and for an awful lot of people that would be in my kind of situation, or even just similar situations to me, living is difficult. Like I'm like chronically ill, so life is shit. However, even without illness, we live in a very unequal world where we're surrounded by cruelty every time we look under the cover of something. If you're a compassionate person, if you want to make the world a better place, it's soul crushing to continuously see the callousness of other people and the harm that people cause to themselves and others. I don't think the world is a nice place. I think the world is currently a capitalist hellhole where you either work and be productive or you're treated like shit. This isn't the reason that I don't want kids, but it's definitely a valid reason for anybody who would use that reason. Not wishing to have children because you don't want them to experience what you've experienced. Personally, I don't want anyone to have to currently experience looking at Turin Rider's current hairstyle. You say that the vast majority of people are happy to be alive and aren't in poverty, but this is completely untrue. Almost half the world, over 3 billion people, live on less than 250 a day. At least 80% of humanity lives on less than $10 a day.
Let's pose a thought experiment. Are people going to be more or less invested in the future of the planet and the environment if they have children? Opting out of procreation, this may be a great way for people to feel less connected and more indifferent with regard to the future of the Earth. This may be one of the reasons why Freely and Durian Rider seem to have no problem eating huge amounts of palm oil based junk food, and huge amounts of fruit rather than eating a sustainable vegan diet of beans and whole grains and seeds with limited amounts of fruits and vegetables. Maybe they don't really care that much about the environment because they aren't invested in it.
Having children did not help our parents' generation to give more of a shit about the planet or the animals of this planet. Freely and Jerry Ryder don't give much of a shit about animals in the first place, never mind the environment. They do very much, though, give a shit about feeling morally superior to other people and being right. This is quite obvious with the whole palm oil thing, as well as that Freely allows the promotion and discussion of vegan diets for cats on our website and doesn't challenge or shut down any of that. Personally, I believe that the reason that Freely and Jerry Ryder support antinatalism is that it's another way for them to feel morally superior to others. The antinatalism community is also very hateful towards non-antinatalists and is a smug, self-righteous community in general. That's probably why they're both into it.
For me, that means having children and contributing to the next generation that will take our places. It means doing the best I can to teach them right from wrong and to raise them to be compassionate and responsible adults.
Having children in the end is going to be your choice, but I think it's also important to mention there's plenty of other ways to educate the next generation on ethics and morality. The next generation of kids who aren't your own kids, who are the kids of people who do eat meat, who don't feel compassion towards animals in the same way that you would. I think it's important to be active in your community, for example, being an activist, taking a stand against the harms of this world. You don't have to have your own kids to make that mark. Even though he's a cunt, Gary Yorovsky has made a lot of other people's kids vegan. You probably have as well. You don't have to have kids to make a mark on this next generation.
By having children, you pay forward all of the work that your parents and society at large put into making you and raising you, and you provide the next link in the chain of human progress. It's a debt that you can probably never really pay back if you choose not to procreate.
I don't owe anyone a debt. For simply existing, I did not ask to be born into the world, and I did not need to procreate to pay any debt. You don't have to have a child to help the next generation. As I've said before, you can help the next generation by activism, by reaching out to them, speak in schools, speak in halls, stand on a box, speak on the street. There's a myriad of ways to help the next generation. Having a child for the sole reason of paying a debt is a ridiculous idea. This also doesn't take into account that a lot of people, parents, are absolutely awful people. My mother is one of the worst human beings that I've ever had the displeasure of being around. I don't owe her anything. I don't owe society either. This idea that we owe a debt is just awful. You don't owe anyone a debt simply by existing. You don't need to have children for society's sake, or your parents' sake, or the world's sake. Having a child for those reasons will not make you a good parent automatically, and it does not guarantee a healthy, happy, well-adjusted child.
If you are an intelligent, creative, compassionate human being without any severe genetic disorders, the world needs your DNA to stick around.
Your entire idea regarding eugenics is just flawed. Everyone thinks they're intelligent. A very small minority of individuals, usually those with low self-esteem, believe that they're stupid. Most people think they're smart and loathe people telling them otherwise. Your idea that only intelligent people should procreate only works in a world where people are realistic about their own intelligence, and barely anyone is. Also, how are you defining intelligence? What is intelligence? What about creative intelligence? What about social intelligence? Even with individuals who aren't academically intelligent, they give something to the world as well. Everyone is unique and gives something positive to the world around them, even if many also give something negative. I think you're blaming stupidity for the harms of the world when really the harms of the world are caused by ignorance and a lack of critical thinking. Do you think that if critical thinking was taught in schools and kids are given the tools to question things properly, that we still have such a low number of vegans or people you class as intelligent? I think that one of the things you could do to really help the next generation is to get into schools and teach kids critical thinking, or find a platform and teach kids critical thinking. Make a series on your channel, Critical Thinking for Kids. That's a really good way to get people to be vegan, get people to analyze the things around them.
The bottom line is that using they may not be vegan when they grow up as an argument against having vegan children, coupled with the knowledge of the reality of your own risk of recidivism, it really just amounts to an equivalent argument to end your own life.
I don't even know how to explain this further because it's so obvious. I have control over what I do. You have control over what you do. If I have a child, I do not have control over whether they are or aren't vegan. But I've created that life, so now I am partly responsible for any pain and suffering that child causes. Without me in the chain, choosing to have that child wouldn't have a chance to do wrong. It wouldn't have a chance to not be vegan. While I can stop being vegan, my children can stop being vegan, and that's one, two, three, multiple people who are now not vegan. One person not being vegan is much, much better than two people not being vegan.
If you really think life is nothing but suffering, you have every means and opportunity to opt out. And yet, you're still here. You are someone who sincerely does not see the beauty and joy in life. It's very likely that you are the one subject to a bias. It's called clinical depression. You need help, you probably need medication, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. There is so much more to life than being miserable, and I really hope you seek out the help that you need. So now I'm just going to let these people speak for themselves by sharing a few select quotes, because they do a far better job of showing how truly sad they are than I ever could summarizing their points.
Positive enjoyment in life is not the only reason that people choose not to kill themselves. I do not kill myself for different reasons than that. I'm also quite historically bad at attempting to kill myself. Um, I find a lot of this particular argument of yours is just very irresponsible. Many people suffer from serious mental health issues where they can't envision a future, where they are at risk of suicide. What you're doing here is accidentally tempting those people. I can't say I wasn't slightly tempted when I listened to this part of your video. If I was having a bad mental health day, I might have been more than just tempted. You really show a lack of understanding for those suffering from mental health conditions. And I think you should be more aware and a little less flippant in the future. Clinical depression is not a bias, it's a mental health condition, and framing it as a bias is framing it as a choice, as biases are in the end choices we make. You're quite cruel for showing those comments and framing them as sad and looking down on those people and being kind of sarcastic and playing sarcastic music over it all. Clearly, many of them are severely mentally ill or and suffering from severe depression. One of those images is a suicide note. I can't really explain why it's. I'm pretty sure you're aware why it's wrong to show somebody's suicide note with a sad song over it, to show how pathetic someone is. Um, Many of those people probably had much rougher lives than you. You should really have a bit more empathy there. Also, showing those quotes to prove just how sad they are is really blatant and obvious straw man. You should know better in multiple different ways. Anyway, please subscribe to the channel, like and comment on the video. Thanks to Unnatural Vegan if she does end up watching, and thanks for anyone else who ends up watching too. Bye!